I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. There was a rare instance of bipartisanship during Thursday's Senate Homeland Security hearing. Democratic Senator Kyrsten Sinema agreed with her Republican colleagues' praise of Border Patrol agents. This moment comes as Democrats and Republicans continue to clash over border policy, as Title 42 is expected to be lifted later this month. Let's listen in.
Senator Sinema, recognized for your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to echo what Senator Portman just said about the respect for the men and women who serve in blue and green on the front lines of our border. I think that we can safely say it's a bipartisan agreement that we admire and strongly support their efforts. So I want to pass along my thanks as well, particularly to those who are serving throughout southern Arizona. Chief Huffman, robust migrant processing at ports of entry is a key part of the DHS plan for the southern border. However, Arizona's ports of entry were not designed to manage large-scale asylum processing. So this has the potential to create a volatile situation that is unsafe for our CBP officers and our migrants when bottlenecks occur and frustration rises. While the funding I secured for ports of entry modernization with my colleague, Senator Portman, in the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act will be very helpful in the long term, these modernization projects are still years from completion. What capacity requirements for infrastructure, transportation, and related staffing will be in place for Arizona ports to prevent overcrowding and disruptions to trade and travel? How many individuals will CBP have capacity to process in Arizona on a daily basis? And on what date will all those deployments be complete?
Thank you for your question, and again, thank you for your support for the men and women on the front line of CBP. They certainly, as you mentioned, they're facing some enormous challenge, and it's going to get tougher. As far as Arizona and specifically, I don't have specific numbers to Arizona specific with me, but I can get those numbers to you to exactly what's in place, unless you have them.
I do not, Chief. Okay,
get those to you what they are, but I do know that they're going to. There are concerns about the volumes. It's going to be all of our ports of entry. Arizona, in particular, as you asked for, safety and security of our folks are top in front of our minds at all the times. So each port, they will take appropriate steps if they need to, including temporarily halting processing if they have to. They will they'll reorder the lines. They have our mobile field force teams trained up and ready to go in case it does get a volatile situation to help control crowds. And if necessary, if they have to, they may even close down lanes or close down the ports until they can regain order. Those are the standard steps we've taken historically in the past when we've had challenges at our ports of entry, and they're well versed in understanding how to do those and execute those along the way if we get to those cases. We are, as we mentioned, are detailing people to those areas. We are building up the capacity to process throughputs. Arizona, as you know, is kind of a unique challenge. They don't have the same NGO support for follow-on afterwards that you do in other areas, and so as Ms. Tierney mentioned earlier, we're addressing those as well to try to get to move those through those things. I know you mentioned earlier about the other states, and wasn't although you were concerned about it, that wasn't top on your list, but those are key, as she mentioned, about having the system that allows us to decompress laterally and move those people. And when those people are processed through, they would be released in some area besides in the Arizona area and the Yuma area. So all those things have been taken in consideration as we try to work specifically on these difficult areas. The Yuma sector of the Border Patrol is one of the most challenging ones to deal with. It is the one that's always the first one to be over capacity because it's the infrastructure is such small there when we start getting traffic flows in there. So that's a number one focus that we're working on, trying to continue to find ways to decompress that, move people out of there, and minimize the impact as much as possible on the local community.
Mr. Nunez-Nieto, I'm pleased to hear that DHS has based part of their plan on the regional processing centers model that I proposed with Senator Cornyn in our Bipartisan Border Solutions Act. I know Senator Portman spoke about that earlier. These enhanced centralized processing centers will co-locate DHS components, nonprofits, and other relevant entities to help reduce systemic inefficiencies. I understand the pilot location became operational on April 29th in Laredo, Texas, and that this pilot will be used to work out the logistics for future centers. What factors are being used to determine future locations for these processing centers, and how long do you anticipate it will take to operationalize additional centers?
Yeah, so thank you for that question, Senator. This is something I think we are all very excited about, bringing innovation to the process at the border. I think these enhanced central processing centers have a lot of potential, to allow us to better triage the flow and focus, consequences on higher risk individuals, but then for lower risk individuals who are going to be referred into immigration proceedings and released, have facilities that allow us to co-locate with ICE, with potentially HHS, and with NGOs in order to have kind of a much more seamless handoff at every stage of the process within the same facility. I think what we're looking to see really is whether we realize those gains in terms of the handoffs between each step of the process and the time in custody that they're spending, actually being, held in CBP custody. We're also hoping that this process will allow us to, by minimizing the law enforcement footprint in the facility, have more of our law enforcement officers on the line doing their primary law enforcement function rather than doing processing. And a big part of that effort is going to be looking at ways to contract out the processing support. I believe that there is an expansion plan in place. I don't know, Chief Huffman, if you know the next locations. If not, we will get back to you on those.
I don't have the exact next locations now, but I think there are the things about when you stand these up, you have the ability, as you see how traffic flows, you want to try to anticipate where you're going to need them the most. We can make some estimates of where we need them the most, but I think as we see the traffic flows, we'll be able to be as nimble as we can to be there to the right spot.
Thank you. We intend to follow up on that. Would like to hear follow-up information, and in particular, whether or not Arizona can expect to get an enhanced centralized processing center. We'll want to hear more about that, and of course, when we can expect it to be fully operational. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Sinema. And I'd like to